been waiting long? I've just been down the shore here in the big harbor, treasure hunting. And I guess I kind of forgot what time I was supposed to be back here. But look, I found the most amazing thing. Oh, this is a conch shell. I love finding these. You can hear the ocean if you listen. It's funny. The ocean sounds like a... Oh, he's at the telephone. Hello? No, I just forgot what time I was supposed to be back. I'm sorry. Yeah. Hold on. Who's that? I have to go. Thank you. Oh, it's Theodore. No, I didn't go home. I'm right here. No one knew where I was. The whole harbor's been worried about me. Oh, Theodore thinks I should tell you about the time that no one knew where Northumberland was. Now, that is a good story. How did it all begin?
One fine morning in the big harbor, Theodore and Rebecca, the research vessel, were going underwater treasure hunting. They headed towards the ocean, where Northumberland's submarine would be coming home from his nightly underwater patrol. Northumberland always helped the treasure team find great things under the water. Now, at that very moment, out past the rocky cliffs that dropped all the way to the ocean floor, Northumberland was cruising towards the big harbor. Silently, the submarine began to climb towards the surface. In the dim light from above, Northumberland could see something in the cliffs, something dark. He floated closer. It looked like the opening of an underwater cave. His propeller skipped a beat. Maybe, he said to himself, there's something in there. Now, Northumberland knew the treasure team were waiting for him back in the big harbor, but he had an idea. Maybe I can find something for the team in this cave. And so slowly, Northumberland entered the cave. Where could Northumberland be? Asked Rebecca. Oh, he'll be here any minute, smiled Theodore. Northumberland was always on time. Not this time. Northumberland was exploring the underwater cave. It was much bigger than he imagined and had lots of places to look. One place seemed to lead to another, and another, and then another. Nothing yet, he said to himself. Northumberland knew his friends might be wondering where he was by now, but he decided to go look just a little further. They'll really be happy to see me when I bring back something great, he told himself. Did Northumberland say anything to you about being late today? Asked Rebecca. No, replied Theodore. Maybe he fell asleep somewhere. You see, Northumberland is a very sleepy sub. I'd better go and look for him, said Rebecca. Well, Theodore really wanted to go look for Northumberland too, but he knew there was somewhere he had to go first. Northumberland is missing, Theodore called to the dispatcher as he hurried towards the great ocean dock. He's usually back by now, but no one's seen him anywhere. He's not the only one who's missing, said the dispatcher. So is Rebecca. Rebecca? Repeated Theodore. She's not in the harbor, explained the dispatcher. Oh, said Theodore, relieved. Rebecca went to look for Northumberland. Well, I'm glad you told me, said the dispatcher. If anyone can find Northumberland, it's Rebecca. I'd like to go and look for Northumberland too, said Theodore. Is that okay? I think it would be a good idea if you went, Theodore, the dispatcher said after a moment. and take Shelburne with you. Shelburne? Repeated Theodore. He couldn't figure out why the dispatcher wanted him to take Shelburne, the giant sea barge, with him. Northumberland may be in trouble, the dispatcher explained. You might need Shelburne to help bring him back up to the surface. Well, a chill ran down Theodore's hull. Northumberland in trouble. Theodore's 2 quick toots told the dispatcher he was off and on the double. Nothing, said Northumberland. He had finally reached the end of the underwater cave, but he hadn't found anything at all for the treasure team. Nothing, except rocks. I bet I'm really late now, he thought. I'd better go home. Northumberland began to turn. His nose hit the side of the cave. And that's when Northumberland realized there wasn't enough room for him to turn around. At that very moment, Rebecca was almost right above Northumberland, near the rocky cliffs that dropped to the ocean floor. She was using her special equipment to try and find the sub. But even Rebecca's special equipment couldn't find Northumberland deep under the ocean inside the cave. Meanwhile, Northumberland had an idea. He threw his propeller into reverse and began to go out of the cave backwards. He hit another rock. A few rocks tumbled down around him. Northumberland knew that if he wasn't careful, he would start an underwater rock slide. He started out again, slowly this time. One wrong move and the whole cave might come falling down on him. Theodore, Shelburne, said Rebecca, sounding very surprised. What are you two doing out here? The dispatcher sent us, explained Theodore, in case Northumberland's in trouble.
We're ready for action,
said Shelburne in his slow voice. Well, Northumberland's nowhere around here, sighed Rebecca. Maybe he's further out on the ocean. Almost out, said Northumberland, but he wasn't. At last he could see sunlight at the cave's entrance. And then, disaster. His fin hit a rock, and that started a rock slide. Northumberland spun his propeller as fast as he could and roared out of the cave, just in time. Oh, that was close, breathed the sub. Northumberland nosed up to float to the surface, but he couldn't. The rock slide had bent his propeller, and now he couldn't float forward. And if he couldn't float forward, he couldn't float to the surface. Northumberland was stuck on the bottom of the ocean. No one will ever find me down here, he said out loud. Why didn't I tell someone where I was going to be? There's no sign of him, said Rebecca. Can we try back over there? Asked Theodore. But we've already looked there, said Rebecca. I just have a feeling, said Theodore. Please, Rebecca. Rebecca listened again with her special underwater sonar. But she still couldn't hear anything from the bottom of the ocean. Suddenly, Rebecca stopped. What is it? Asked Theodore. I think, said Rebecca slowly, I hear something. Theodore, hold Shelburne steady. Shelburne, lower your hook. Theodore nudged up against Shelburne to hold the giant barge steady. Shelburne's big hook lowered and lowered and lowered. Clunk. Shelburne shuddered as his hook hit hard steel. "I found him!" he shouted. "Can you grab onto him?" called Rebecca.
I'll try.
Said Shelburne.
Got him.
"Haul away," ordered Rebecca. "Hold Shelburne steady, Theodore."
He's heavy.
Grunted Shelburne. "Try harder," cried Theodore.
Here he comes.
Shouted Shelburne.
Make room. Make room.
The water bubbled and boiled, and then, with a mighty whoosh, Northumberland broke free to the surface. Everyone blew their whistles at once. They were so happy to see the submarine. "What happened, Northumberland?" asked Rebecca. "I was in an underwater cave," replied Northumberland. "A cave?" said Theodore. "Yes," the sub went on. "It was really gigantic, and it had lots of passageways that went forever."
Gee, that sounds exciting.
Said Shelburne in his usual slow way. "We looked everywhere for you," said Rebecca. "We didn't know where you were. We were all really worried about you," added Theodore. "Well, I was worried too," said Northumberland. "At first, I didn't think I could get out of the cave. And then I started a rock slide and bent my propeller." "It's a good thing we found you," smiled Rebecca. "I guess I should have told everyone where I was," said Northumberland sadly. "I only wanted to find something great for the treasure team, but I didn't." "But we did find something great," called Theodore as everyone set off for home together. "We did?" said Northumberland. "Yes," smiled Theodore. "You, Northumberland. We found you." Well, now I know why everyone was so worried while I was out finding my conch shell. I forgot to tell them where I was. Where is my conch shell? Now, that's probably somebody else wondering where I was. I better answer my phone. Thanks for visiting us here in the Big Harbor. We'll see you all again next time, and I won't be late, I promise. Hello? This sounds like the ocean. Hello?
Theodore, he's a tugboat and a friendly tugboat too. A friendly tugboat too. Oh, Theodore likes to do the things that friendly tugboats do. Pushing and a pulling in the great big harbor, in the great big world is so much fun. So many brand new things to discover. Waking with the sun, gotta get the job done. Oh, Theodore and Emily, Voda, Hank and George, and the harbor master too.
Hello. I'm on my way to visit Owen, the oil rig. And since it's an official visit, I have to wear my official harbor master's uniform.
Now, all I need now is my official cap here. And... It is winter. I'll bet it'll be chilly out there. Maybe I should wear my earmuffs instead of my official cap. No. They're not really part of my official uniform. What should I do? I know what Hank would say. See, one time Hank was supposed to do something and... Now, let me tell you that story. It was a beautiful winter day, and all the tugs were up early, full of beans and barnacles. Feeling the faraway warmth of the brilliant sun and the cool sea breeze on their faces made the tugs happy. Now, when the tugs are happy, they're always a bit noisy. "Tug of war!" shouted Theodore. All the tugs began pulling against each other with their tow ropes to see who was the strongest, blowing their whistles and shouting as loud as they could.
Can't pull me.
George called to Theodore and Hank. "Can so!" squealed Theodore with delight. "It's fun!" called Emily.
It's fantastic.
Hollered Photo.
It's noisy.
Who said that? The tugs all looked around. It was the dispatcher.
You tugboats are being very noisy.
He repeated in a grumpy voice.
I was sleeping, but your loudness woke me up. From now on, I would like everyone to be quiet.
And with that, the dispatcher went back to sleep. "Everyone?" said Hank. "Wow." "Shh," said all the tugs. "Whoops," said Hank. He could already tell it was going to be very hard to be quiet, like the dispatcher said. Later that same day, George and Theodore set off on a special job. They had to move Owen the oil rig to the repair yard across the harbor. Now, Owen has to be moved at night. That's because he's so big. It's better if there are no other ships coming or going who get in his way. And even though the tugs were very excited about working late on such an important job, they were very quiet.
George, Theodore, can I come watch?
It was Hank hurrying to catch up.
You can come, frowned George, but be quiet.
Soon, the tugs could see Owen. And that's when Hank had the most awful thought. Guess what? He said. Hank, please remember to be quiet, said Theodore. It was no use. Hank knew what was about to happen, and there was nothing he could do about it. You see, he remembered something about Owen, and the other tugs were just about to remember too.
Theodore, you go to the side, whispered George, and I'll go in front. Hank, you stay beside me, and remember.
I know, whispered Hank. Be quiet. The tugs glided silently to their places, ready to begin moving Owen. George smiled. Everything was nice and quiet.
Hello there, tugboats!
Someone roared. It was Owen, the giant oil rig.
Sure is good to see you. Yes, sirree, Bob,
shouted Owen in his loud voice. Actually, Owen always talks in a loud voice. Very, very loud.
Gonna be moving me to the repair yards, huh, tugboats? Well, that's terrific. Terrific.
Owen's big voice bounced off the other side of the harbor and rumbled right back at the tugs, just like thunder. I tried to tell you, said Hank to the tugs. Owen is very loud, frowned George.
Say, what's everyone whispering about?
Yelled Owen.
The dispatcher wants everyone to be quiet, Owen,
Theodore said softly as the tugs set off.
Oh,
roared Owen.
Quiet. Well, that seems great. Great. Yes, sirree, Bob. Nothing like a little peace and quiet.
Well, Owen didn't say another word. The tugs were very glad that Owen had decided to be nice and quiet.
Oh, let's all go down to the squid chicken ground. There's nothing I've found like the squid chicken sound.
Hank just had to laugh. Owen wasn't trying to be so loud. He just couldn't help himself. And Hank couldn't help laughing.
Hank,
Theodore said hotly,
it's not funny.
Oops,
roared Owen.
Forgot to be quiet again. Well, from now on, I'll be as quiet as a sea cabbage. No, I'll be as quiet as a goldfish. A potato.
Owen went right on, and the more he named things, the louder his voice got.
And the louder his voice got, the louder Hank laughed.
Hank, grumbled George finally, you're being too noisy. You can't watch us anymore.
Hank floated sadly towards home. Now, by this time, a thick pea-soup fog was rolling into the harbor on the cold night air. And, with the darkness coming on, it was getting harder and harder to see. Hank heard a loud sound.
Oh, who's making that big noise?
He wondered. It was Lily, the lighthouse, blowing her foghorn. Hank raced as fast as he could toward Lily. "Lily," huffed Hank, "the foghorn said we have to stop making I mean, the dispatcher said we have to stop making foghorns. Oh, I mean..." Hank was so excited he couldn't speak properly. But Lily kept right on blowing her foghorn. "Oh, I have to do something to make Lily listen," he thought. He made strange faces. Finally, Hank floated backwards, rattled his anchor, rolled his eyes, and went straight towards Willie's Island. Well, Lily was so worried about Hank that she stopped blowing her foghorn. "Hank," said Lily, "I can't stop blowing my foghorn. It's foggy out. I have to warn ships and boats away from the sharp, dangerous rocks on Willie's Island. It's my job." Now, at the very moment when Lily stopped blowing her foghorn, the tugboats were pulling Owen closer and closer to Willie's Island and the sharp, dangerous rocks. Owen let out a thunderous yawn.
Well, tugboats, he bellowed. Looks like this is gonna take a while. I may as well get me some shut-eye. Sleep tight. Don't let the barnacles bite.
And with that, Owen snapped off his big bright lights and went to sleep. At last, it was quieter and darker. "I hope we don't run into Willie's Island, George," said Theodore, peering into the gloom. "I think it's around here somewhere."
Of course it's not, whispered George. We'd hear Lily's foghorn.
What George and Theodore didn't know was that Lily wasn't blowing her foghorn. "Hank," she said, "I really must blow my foghorn."
"No,"
whispered Hank. He was so worried that Lily might start making more noise that he began to race around in a big circle. And that's when he noticed a giant dark shape. Something big was moving through the water. "That's Owen," Hank said to himself. He realized the tugs were moving Owen, and in the dark, well, they probably couldn't see Willie's Island, and of course they couldn't hear Lily's foghorn warning them away from the rocks. That's because right then, Lily wasn't blowing her foghorn. Hank hurried out towards the tugs. "George, Theodore," he started to say, but the tugs frowned and said, "Shh, Hank." Now, Hank knew the dispatcher told everyone to be quiet, but even if he got in trouble with the dispatcher, Hank couldn't let his friends get hurt. He had to say something. Hank blew his whistle as loud as he could, and then he shouted, "Stop! You're too close to Willie's Island! Lily, blow your horn!" Right away, Lily began to blow her foghorn.
Danger! Stay away!
All the noise woke Owen, and wouldn't you know it, right there, almost in front of him, was Willie's Island.
Turn!
Roared George. "Quickly!" yelled Theodore.
Harder!
Strained George. "Help us, Hank!" cried Theodore. Hank moved quickly to the big rig. And pushed with all his might. "We're doing it!" yelled Theodore. The tugs turned Owen away from Willie's Island, and just in time.
Hooray!
Cried George. "Hooray!" shouted Theodore and Hank.
Well, that sure was close call, yes sirree, Bob, boomed Owen. Good thing I woke up and turned on my lights.
Well, the tugs had to smile. After all, they had done most of the work. Just then, the fog lifted a little, and the tugs could see another light come on. the light from the great ocean dock. Oh, it looks like the dispatcher woke up too, said Theodore quietly.
It must have been all our noise,
said George. Uh-oh, said Hank to himself. I'm in trouble now. Well, sure enough, the dispatcher was waiting for the tugs when they'd finished moving Owen.
What was all that noise?
He said. It was me, sir, said Hank quietly.
Why did you make that loud noise, Hank?
Asked the dispatcher. Well, Lily was blowing her dispatcher, Mr. Foghorn, Hank began. All his words caught in his throat again like he had swallowed a bumper, and everything came out funny. Theodore floated forward. I think, he began, it was all because you told us you wanted everyone to be quiet.
Right,
said George.
Lily wasn't blowing her foghorn, so we almost bumped into Willie's Island with Owen.
Until Hank warned us away, added Theodore. Well, when the dispatcher heard this, his mustache shot straight out. Oh, my goodness me. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, I see.
Oh, dear. Well, I'm afraid this is all my fault.
The tugs were so surprised, they didn't say anything. And then the dispatcher said an even more surprising thing. Hank, I'm very proud of you. Good job. You are? Said Hank. I mean, it was?
Oh, it's important to do what I say, all right, said the dispatcher. But sometimes I don't always say the right thing.
You don't?
No, I don't, continued the dispatcher. I didn't mean you should always be quiet. I just lost my temper this morning when you were making that big noise. I made a mistake, and I'm sorry. From now on, I'll try and be more careful about what I tell you to do.
You will? Said Theodore.
I will, said the dispatcher. Good night, tugboats, and good job.
Good night, tooted the tugs, and turned for their places at the dock. It had been a long day, and they were glad it was over.
Good night, everyone!
Big voice boomed out. It was Owen, hollering from clear over at the repair yards. Well, the dispatcher turned back to the tugs again.
Do you think you should have a special loud time?
He asked. Right now? Said Hank. Right now, said the dispatcher.
Good night, Owen!
Roared all the tugs together.
Well, said Owen. It sure is loud in this here harbor. Yes, sirree, Bob.
You know, I'm very proud of Hank, too. Somehow he usually ends up doing the right thing, even though it doesn't always start out that way.
Well, I was on my way to visit Owen.
I just know my ears are going to be cold if I wear this official cap.
So, I'm going to wear my earmuffs just this once. Thanks for visiting us here in the Big Harbor, and we'll see you all again next time. Something else I didn't think of. You know, with these earmuffs on, I can barely hear a thing. But I guess when you're going to go visit Owen, that's good. Yes, sirree, Bob!
Theodore, he's a tugboat and a friendly tugboat too. A friendly tugboat too. Oh, Theodore likes to do the things that friendly tugboats do. Pushing and a pulling in the great big harbor, in the great big world is so much fun. So many brand new things to discover. Waking with the sun, gotta get the job done. Oh, Theodore and Emily, Vodak, Hank and George, and the harbor master too.
We hope you enjoyed your Theodore Tugboat stories. Theodore Tugboat and his many floating friends present playful stories and positive values for young children. Collect the complete Theodore Tugboat home video series wherever quality family entertainment is sold.